friends, welcome to the Jazz Ranch, Hip Cats and Groovy Chicks. You know, I'm onto this subject about the universe and music, how it relates. And I found out about this cat, Stephen Alexander. He wrote a book called The Jazz of Physics. He talks about the structure of the universe, and it's a result of a pattern of vibration. And what causes that vibration? That the universe is behaving like a musical instrument. Now, this is fascinating in a way. In the most engaging chapters of the book, he talks, it's part memoir, part history of science, and part physics popularization, and part jazz lesson. I'm going to talk about various songs which apply this principle within one specific scale. The symmetrical scale, the diminished scale, and also the altered dominant scale, how they two relate. Here we go. Good evening. This is part one of a new series on chords and scales that are symmetrical. Now, I'm going to be playing 4 songs for you, just the beginnings, the first 4 measures. And they all have something in common, which we'll talk about later on. But the first song is Aint Misbehavin in the key of F. It goes like this. Just that much of it. Now, next one is Someday My Prince Will Come in the key of C. Next one is Don't Blame Me, now in the key of F. And the last one is A Foggy Day, now in the key of B flat. So now there you have 4 songs. Take a guess at it. What do they have in common in terms of chords or scales? Okay, did you figure it out? Well, if you're a genius, you probably did. And I give you credit. Please write in. But anyway, the first 2 songs, Aint Misbehavin and Someday My Prince Will Come, they have a diminished chord in common. Now, when I say in common, it isn't the same diminished chord, but it's in the same family. Now, what that means is, let's just take a C diminished, right? Now, a diminished chord is formed by playing intervals of minor thirds. So if we start on C, we go up a minor third, it's an E flat, up a minor third, it's a G flat, up a minor third, it's an A. So that's a diminished chord. Now we can invert it like this, and it's all the same chord because the inversions are just the same notes. You see, so it has 4 inversions in a way, but each diminished chord functions in a different way, and I'm going to talk about that. But that's one thing. So the first 2. This is a family, what I call the C family. Why? Because the C is in there. So I'm gonna reduce this to, just for understanding it, I'm going to reduce it to 3 families: the C family, the F family, and the G family, because those are the easiest keys, right? C is all white notes, or no sharps or flats. F is just 1 flat, and G is just 1 sharp. So those are the 3 easiest keys to understand. So I'm just going to reduce this now to 3 families. So this is the C family now. It has these chords in common on the diminished. So it just means C diminished, E flat diminished, G flat diminished, and A diminished. All have in common. Now you're going to see in the first example where I'm going to use the G flat diminished. You know, I'm going to use that one. So now the next thing I want to talk about before I go into looking at the example is I want to talk about the scale. Now, a diminished scale starts with a whole tone, C to D, C diminished now, C to D, and then a half tone, and then a whole tone, and then a half tone, then a whole tone, then a half tone, and then a whole tone, and then a half tone. So it's whole tone, half tone. And that's the symmetry of it, because that's symmetrical, right? The intervals are the same. As in the same way that chromatic scales are all half steps and whole tone scales are all whole steps. This one is whole half, right? Then whole half, then whole, then half, then whole, then half, then whole, then half. That's the diminished scale in C. Same thing for G flat. It's the same scale, but we're just doing it starting on G flat. The first example is the song Aint Misbehavin'. And it's in the key of F, starts on an F chord. Second chord is a G flat diminished. It's moving up half steps, G flat diminished, and then to G minor 7. So that second chord now is in the family of the C family, because you see there, it's in the C family, there's G flat. So the chord is going to be whole steps like this, starting with a whole step. There's your scale. So you see, that gives you your scale now. There's your whole tone, half tone scale on the first song. Now the second song, Someday My Prince Will Come, relates to the first song, Aint Misbehavin', in that they both have diminished chords in the same family. In this same family. I'm just going to be using the family, the C family here, C, E flat, G flat, A. And that's scale. So that's the scale. No matter where you start on any note. On the E flat, on the G flat, on the A. If you start on the G flat, there. Now I'm going to be starting on the E flat for this tune. And so it's going to go like this. C, E7 augmented, F, A7, D minor 7, A7 augmented, D minor 9, G7. And then we go up to here. That's a C with the E in the bass. Now here's your E flat diminished. D minor 9, G7. So there you have it. There's your E flat diminished chord. Same scale, right? Same scale as the C. So they have that same scale in common. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is how the diminished scales have in common, what they have in common with the dominant seventh scales. Now this thing is cosmic, and if you don't dig this, well, what I'm saying is this has something to do with the universe. In other words, there wouldn't be symmetry in the universe. It wouldn't work if it wasn't working within music. So it works within music, and the Greeks figured that out centuries ago, that music was a way to learn about the spheres, about the universe. So now here you have, am I getting heavy here? Now you have Don't Blame Me. Now on the third chord you have a D7, right? Which you can put a flat 9 in there. Now let's figure that out. What it is it's a diminished chord with the flat 9 in it. So in other words, this is a dominant seventh chord, and when you add a flat 9, you have a diminished chord on top, which is in that same family, right? That's the G flat diminished. But if I put a D on the bottom of it, now it's a D7 with a flat 9 in it. Now that just means that it's a dominant seventh that wants to move to its related, on the cycle of fifths, to its related 1, like that. Either that or minor. Probably minor in this case, but it is going to go to G minor in this particular case. We're going to go D7, D7 flat 9 to G minor there, you see. So now this is amazing, because now we have the same usage of the scale, but now on a dominant chord. Now that amazing thing about this is the dominant chords also fit within a family which is the same family. It's the I called it that the C diminished family, but now in the case of a dominant chord it's going to be an F family. Why? It's got to be a another diminished chord. So the F family is going to start with the half steps. But it's going to be the same scale because we're actually starting with half steps instead of whole steps. So it amounts to the same scale. Remember, this was the scale. Well, if we look at and we go to F, see the F is in there. If we start with the F, it's just starting on a half step. Now it has, within the diminished, it has all the notes that are in the diminished, but within the F it has the flat 9, the sharp 9, the third, the flat 5 or the sharp 4, the fifth, the sixth, the flat 7, and the 1. So there you have that altered dominant scale. So now how are we using it? Let's use it in this particular tune. It's a D7. Now here it is. You see, half tone, whole tone, half tone, whole tone, half tone, whole tone, half tone, whole tone. There you have the scale. It's the exact same scale. It's the same scale as the diminished scale, but now it's reversed. And its symmetry is amazing. In other words, the diminished relates to the dominant, but in another key. Okay, so the fun thing about this is that the universe and music are in sync. In other words, there is a common thing within music that we can learn about the universe. In other words, that there is symmetry. And if there wasn't, then, you know, like maybe the planets would be bouncing off of each other, or like we'd have, you know, 365 days one year, and then 370 the next, and then 347 the next day. And things wouldn't work, you know, it just wouldn't work. So there is intelligence here. There is amazing symmetry. And now on a foggy day, you know, you see the same thing is happening here when we have the D flat dominant chord going to the C minor 7 to the F. There we have the F7 with the flat 9. There's the same scale. But it's relating to a dominant, so it's just a half step, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole on the F. You see, it's the same scale as that C diminished. So there you have 4 chords, the C diminished, the E flat, the G flat, the A, and then you have the F7, the A flat 7, the B, and the D, all having the same common scale, all relating to each other, just being permutations or different inversions of each other. That's what's going on here. An important point is to understand that diminished chords and dominant 7th chords are tension chords. In other words, they're chords that create tension that want to resolve to resolution. So music is all about tension and resolution, you know, 5-1 and that sort of thing. In other words, without that, we'd be living in la la land, you know, like sort of like we have tension like this, resolution. That creates music. Now, this is important to understand that in the diminished chord, the tension is created by 2 intervals that are diminished fifths or augmented fourths. In other words, the flat 5. In jazz we call it the flat 5. So there's one, there's the other one. So this one wants to resolve like this. And this one wants to resolve maybe like this. You see that? You see? And in dominant chords it wants to resolve pretty much up a fourth or down a fifth. So this wants to resolve, you know, B7 wants to resolve to E, which is up a fourth or down a fifth. So that tension resolution is so important to music. In fact, all the composers, Beethoven, Mozart, they used the 5 and the 1, or the tension, the 5 chord, the dominant chord, and the tonic chord to create hundreds of themes within music, and that was the underlying harmony, which is the basis of all life. It's just that tension resolution. It's very simple and very complex at the same time. So you may ask, well, why does this mean anything? What's the purpose of this? Well, it's to understand music in depth, how it works within the universe that is perfect in every way. The tension resolution is a principle within the universe that it just exists, and we live by it. And we can always figure out, if we have tension, what the resolution should be with all the possibilities. There's many ways to resolve a problem. So that's what music is teaching us. But it's also a law. It's a law within the universe, and laws within the universe teach us something about how it works, and that there is a higher intelligence within the universe. I believe that, and that's what music has taught me, and that's what the Greeks did, and that's the beauty of it. That's the end of part one. You can decide if you like me with the sunglasses on or off. I don't care. Anyway, no, thanks for joining me on this. I love this idea of the universe relating to music and the vibrations within the universe and so on. And, you know, Hermes still up there looking down at, he's in the cosmos up there looking down on us with pity and saying, swing loose, and we'll see you next time around. Please write to me. Bye-bye.